They built 96 houses on my land, not by accident, on purpose. I inherited 47 acres in Colorado from my grandfather. Paid off and pristine. Went to visit the property for the first time in 3 years and found an entire subdivision where my forest used to be. Paved roads, street lights, families moving furniture into houses they'd paid $485,000 each for. The HOA president, a woman who'd never worked an honest day but wore a Rolex like a badge, told me to my face I was a deadbeat squatter trying to scam hard-working families. Said her lawyer confirmed the land was abandoned, so adverse possession made it legally theirs. She'd already deposited $16 million in pre-sales. Here's what I did. Absolutely nothing. Let them finish construction. Watch them landscape, paint, install pools. Then I walked into federal court with my grandfather's original 1971 deed. What would you do if someone built a neighborhood on your property? Drop your state below. Let's see where my land rights family is watching from. My name's Dakota Flint. Yeah, like the stone. 47 years old, structural engineer, divorced. I drive a 2008 Silverado that burns a quart of oil every month. Nothing special about me except one thing. My grandfather left me 47 acres of Colorado forest worth about $4.2 million. William Flint bought that land in 1971 for $8,200 cash. Depression-era guy. Kept every receipt in leather ledgers that smelled like pipe tobacco and WD-40. When he died in 2019, he left me the property with one note tucked inside the deed. Don't let the bastards take what's yours. I didn't visit for 3 years. Divorce, 2 kids in college, 70-hour work weeks. But I pay property taxes every April, $6,400 annually. Never late, always online. I had the email receipts. August 2022, I finally drove up to scatter Grandpa's ashes, turned off Highway 36 onto the old fire road, and my stomach dropped. The pine forest was gone. In its place, 96 Mediterranean stucco houses with fake balconies and HOA-mandated beige paint. A carved stone entrance sign read Ridgeline Heights, a Whitmore luxury community. I checked my GPS 4 times. Same coordinates. This was my land. At the gatehouse, a security guard stopped me. Residents only. I own this property, I said, holding up my phone with the deed photo. He smirked. Sure, buddy, and I'm Elon Musk. Turn around. Before I could argue, a white Range Rover pulled up. Out stepped Cassandra Whitmore, mid-50s, Botoxed into a permanent look of mild surprise, wearing white linen that probably cost more than my monthly mortgage. She had that specific energy of someone who'd never been told no by anyone who mattered. Problemable, Ray? She asked the guard, not looking at me. This gentleman claims he owns the development. Cassandra finally turned. Her eyes scanned me. Work boots, Carhartt jacket, calloused hands. I watched her mentally file me under pour. How charming, she said. Sweetie, if you're looking for construction work, most crews have filled their labor positions. I'm not looking for work. I'm the legal owner. My grandfather, William Flint. She pulled out her phone, scrolled with manicured nails. Our title company ran a forensic search. This land was abandoned for over 3 years, which under Colorado adverse possession statute means nothing if property taxes were paid. I interrupted. Her smile went sharp. That's adorable. You know just enough to be dangerous. She pulled out a business card. Brian Keir, our attorney. He'll explain why your claim is frivolous. I took the card. How many houses are sold? All 96. Pre-construction sales totaled $16 million. Families are moving in by Thanksgiving. If you continue trespassing, I'll call Sheriff Mitchell personally. We're major contributors to his department's equipment fund. Then she did something that made my blood freeze. She pulled out her phone, snapped my license plate. Just in case you decide to come back and vandalize anything, we have excellent security footage. She leaned closer. And trust me, honey, people like you don't win against people like us. I drove home, hands shaking. That night, I spread Grandpa's documents across my kitchen table. The 1971 deed, 47 annual tax receipts, survey maps. Cassandra had threatened me, photographed my truck, and implied I was a criminal. She'd also just given me everything I needed to bury her. Monday morning, I called Brian Keir, Cassandra's attorney. His receptionist offered me $15,000 if I'd sign a quit claim deed by Friday. $15,000 for $4 million. In land. Tell Mr. Keir I'll see him in court, I said. I needed a real lawyer. My buddy Marcus gave me one name, Lydia Chun. She'd beaten a railroad company in a Wyoming adverse possession case so badly they'd offered her a job just to make her stop. Her consultation fee was $500. I paid it with a credit card and prayed. Lydia's office smelled like old leather and lemon furniture polish. She was about 60, gray hair in a tight bun, reading glasses on a beaded chain. She listened to my entire story without interrupting. Show me your tax receipts. I pulled out a folder thick enough to hurt someone. Email confirmations, bank statements, county records, every April payment since 2019, plus copies going back to Grandpa's first payment in 1971. She flipped through them, and I watched her mouth twitch into something that might have been a smile. Colorado adverse possession requires 18 years of open continuous hostile possession, and the squatter has to pay property taxes the entire time. If you've been paying, their claim is stillborn. So I get an injunction, stop construction? You could. She closed the folder, but here's what I'd do instead, and you're going to think I've lost my mind. Let them finish building. I stared at her. What? If you stop construction now, Cassandra's company declares bankruptcy. Your land gets tied up in a 3-year litigation circus with 96 families who bought homes in good faith suing everyone, including you. But if you let them finish, then file for declaratory judgment, you own 96 completed houses. Cassandra's company has committed textbook fraud, selling property they don't own. They'll be desperate to settle because the alternative is prison. My hands were shaking. What if they somehow win? They won't. But even in some parallel universe where they did, you've lost nothing. Your land's already occupied. The difference is whether you fight one corrupt developer or 96 traumatized families. How much? I asked. $40,000 in legal fees, maybe 50. But when we win, and we will, the court awards damages for trespass, unjust enrichment, fraud, and attorney's fees. You'll own the houses outright. I had $12,000 in savings. I'll figure it out, I heard myself say. One last thing, Lydia's voice dropped. Don't contact Cassandra. Don't post on Facebook. In property litigation, surprise is worth more than gold. I hired her that day. September bled into October. I drove past Ridgeline Heights twice a week, parking on the public road with my phone camera running. Every time I visited, I took time-stamped photos. Cassandra spotted me during her 3rd week. She made a phone call. 20 minutes later, a sheriff's cruiser pulled up behind me. Deputy Torres, young guy, uncomfortable. Sir, Mrs. Whitmore says you've been harassing her, following her, taking pictures. I'm on a public road, officer. I'm documenting construction on property I own. Check Boulder County records. Parcel APN 559-32408. Owner Dakota Flint. Torres shifted his weight. Look, if there's a property dispute, that's civil court, but she's filed a formal complaint. If she calls again saying you're threatening her, I'll have to take action. Understand? I kept taking pictures. By November, the first families moved in. U-Hauls blocking cul-de-sacs, kids on scooters, the smell of pizza delivery mixing with fresh paint. I watched a couple carry a crib into house number 43. These weren't villains. They were people who'd saved for down payments, who believed they were living the American dream. But Cassandra was about to learn that stealing costs more than money. Thanksgiving week, Cassandra sent me a certified letter. Legal letterhead. Brian Keir's signature. 3 pages that boiled down to stop trespassing or we'll sue you for harassment. There was a photo attached. My Silverado parked on the public road. Someone had circled my license plate in red Sharpie. I drove straight to Lydia's office. She read the letter, then started laughing. They're documenting their own fraud. Every letter they send, every photo they take, every interaction. It's evidence that they knew there was a dispute and kept building. She pulled out a yellow legal pad. Meanwhile, I need you to get me everything about Cassandra Whitmore. Property records, business filings, anything public. I spent the next 2 weeks becoming an amateur detective. Whitmore Development LLC was registered in Delaware. Always a red flag. Cassandra was the sole managing member, but the financing came from Ridgeline Capital Group, a Denver-based investment firm owned by 3 partners. One of them was married to Cassandra. His name was Preston Whitmore, a real estate developer who'd been sued twice for construction defects and once for defrauding investors. The cases had been settled quietly, records sealed. The Boulder County permits listed the land as formerly tax delinquent, acquired via adverse possession claim filed March 2022. But here's the thing about adverse possession. You can't just claim it. You have to prove it in court first. They'd filed a claim, then immediately started selling lots as if the claim had been granted. That's fraud. I sent everything to Lydia. She called me an hour later. Dakota, this is better than I thought. Preston Whitmore has a pattern. If we can prove he knew about your ownership and proceeded anyway, this becomes criminal fraud. I'd spent the previous evening with her paralegal tracking down every project the Whitmores had touched in the last decade. There were 7, all in Colorado mountain towns, all following the same pattern. Find land with unclear title or elderly owners. File aggressive claims. Build fast. Sell faster. Let insurance companies clean up the mess. They're not developers, Lydia said. They're land pirates with LLCs. But here's what made my case different. I had documentation. Grandpa's meticulous records going back to 1971. My own tax receipts, survey maps, photographs with GPS timestamps. Most of their victims were old, poor, or didn't keep records. You can prove everything. Here's the strategy. Phase 1, discovery. We depose Preston, Cassandra, their title company, their lender, and every contractor who pulled a permit. Someone always cracks. Phase 2, we file an amended complaint adding RICO charges. Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act. If we can prove they've engaged in a pattern of fraud across multiple projects, which we can, it becomes federal. And federal means treble damages. That's what they're looking at if they lose. She wrote on the board, $163 million. My mouth went dry. Can they even pay that? No, which is why they'll settle. But here's the beautiful part. Preston and Cassandra personally guaranteed the construction loans. If Whitmore Development goes bankrupt, the lenders come after their personal assets. What do I need to do? 3 things. First, I need you to map every single visit you made to the property. Second, we need allies. Anyone in the community who's been hurt by the Whitmores. Third, this goes public. Not Facebook. We're talking local news. I have a contact at Channel 9 Denver who loves corporate fraud stories. Patricia Hughes, investigative reporter. You want me on TV? I want us on TV. You, me, and every family who bought a house in Ridgeline Heights thinking they were getting the American dream. Because those 96 families, they're not the enemy. They're victims. Same as you. When this is over, they'll own their homes free and clear, and Cassandra will own nothing but legal bills. Preston Whitmore's deposition was scheduled for January 18th at 9 a.m. in a glass-walled conference room on the 14th floor of a Denver office building. Preston arrived in a charcoal suit with his own attorney. He didn't look at me, not once. Lydia started gentle. Name, address, occupation. Mr. Whitmore, do you recognize this email? She slid a copy across the table. The February 18th smoking gun. Preston glanced at it. I do. Did you write it? Yes. So you knew in February of 2022 that Dakota Flint was the legal owner of the old Mill Road property? His attorney leaned forward. Don't answer that. Lydia smiled. Your Honor granted a discovery order. He has to answer. Preston shifted. I knew someone named Flint was listed in county records, but our title company advised us the property was effectively abandoned. She asked 50 more questions, each one tightening the noose. By 11 a.m., Preston was sweating through his shirt. By noon, he'd contradicted himself 4 times. His attorney stayed behind after. Your client should settle, she said quietly. Lydia closed her notebook. 10 million. Plus, he resigns from every corporate board, dissolves Ridgeline Capital, and personally finances the transfer of all 96 homes to their current residents at cost. Oh, and a written apology. The attorney laughed short and bitter. He'll never agree to that. Then we'll see him in trial, and I'll bring Channel 9 with me. 2 days later, the escalation I'd been dreading finally came. My son Tyler called at 6 p.m. He was 23, working as a line cook in Fort Collins. Dad, someone came to the restaurant. This guy in a suit said he was a private investigator. Asked my manager if I was reliable, if you'd ever been violent. Dad, my manager pulled me aside after and asked if there's something I need to tell him. I could lose my job. What was the investigator's name? Thomas Brennan, Apex Investigations. I called Lydia. I know. They hired a PI to dig up dirt. It's textbook intimidation. He went to my son's workplace. It's witness tampering, which is a felony. Forward me that business card photo. I'm filing an emergency motion tomorrow morning. But the hits kept coming. January 23rd, I got an email from the IRS. Notice of audit. They were reviewing my tax returns from the past 3 years, citing irregularities reported by a third party. There were no irregularities. This was harassment, pure and simple. I forwarded it to Lydia. They're burning bridges now. This is what happens when rich people panic. January 25th, someone leaked the Ridgeline Heights sales contracts to a Boulder real estate blog. All 96 contracts showing that buyers had paid between $450,000 and $530,000 for homes built on disputed land. The blog's headline, Luxury Developer Sold Homes on Stolen Property. Buyers may lose everything. My phone exploded. A woman named Sarah Chun called me crying. She'd used her entire life savings for the down payment on house number 67. Mr. Flint, please. I have 2 kids. This is supposed to be our forever home. What happens if you win? Do we get evicted? No. You'll own your home. The developer will pay for it. That night, Lydia called with news. Channel 9 wants to interview you. Patricia Hughes. She's doing a segment on predatory land developers. It airs February 2nd, 1 week before trial. The Channel 9 interview was scheduled for January 30th at my house. Patricia Hughes arrived at 2 p.m. with a cameraman and lighting equipment. She was mid-40s, gray-streaked hair and a practical ponytail. Mr. Flint, I've been covering real estate fraud for 12 years. Your case is the most brazen thing I've ever seen. The interview lasted 90 minutes. I told her everything. Grandpa's ledgers, Cassandra's contempt, the Facebook smear campaign, Preston's email, the family's caught in the middle. At the end, she turned off the camera. Off the record, I contacted Cassandra Whitmore for comment. She threatened to sue me for defamation if we air this. Will you still run it? Patricia smiled. Absolutely. The segment aired February 2nd at 6 p.m. Patricia's voiceover began. He inherited the American dream, 47 acres of Colorado forest. But when Dakota Flint visited his land for the first time in 3 years, he found a nightmare instead. They showed aerial footage of Ridgeline Heights, then my interview, intercut with shots of Grandpa's deed and Preston's email. Patricia had obtained county permit records showing the Whitmores had fast-tracked approvals by donating $50,000 to the county commissioner's re-election fund. My phone exploded before the segment even finished. Emma called crying proud tears. Marcus texted, "You just became a folk hero." But the message that mattered came at 7:15 p.m. from a block number. You just made the biggest mistake of your life. February 4th, 2 days after the broadcast, I came home from grocery shopping to find my front door ajar. I'd locked it. I stood on the porch and called 911. Deputy Torres arrived first with backup. They cleared the house room by room. Nothing was stolen, but someone had been inside. On my kitchen table sat a single sheet of paper with 5 words printed in block letters. Drop it or lose everything. 2 hours later, my neighbor Carol knocked on my door. Dakota, I saw a black Audi SUV parked across the street yesterday around noon. Man in a suit got out, walked up your driveway. I thought he was a salesman. Did you see his face? No, but I got the license plate. She handed me a sticky note. I gave it to Torres. He ran it. The vehicle was registered to Apex Investigations. I spent that night at Emma's apartment, slept on her couch with the baseball bat leaning against the wall. February 6th, 3 days before trial, Lydia called with an update. The title company flipped. Rocky Mountain Title is cooperating. They're admitting they knew the adverse possession claim was shaky, but approved it anyway because Preston paid them $45,000 under the table. They're giving us everything. Emails, payment records, recorded phone calls. So we have them. We have them. But Dakota, Cassandra knows it, too. Her attorney called this morning begging for a settlement conference. What did you say? I said we'll see them in court. 3 more days, Lydia said. Stay safe, stay quiet, and get ready to watch everything burn. February 9th, trial day. I put on the same suit I'd worn to the first hearing and drove to Boulder with Emma riding shotgun. The courthouse parking lot was chaos. 2 news vans had cameras set up on the steps. Patricia Hughes spotted me and waved, but I kept my head down. Inside, courtroom 3C was packed. All 96 families from Ridgeline Heights had received notices, and at least 40 had shown up. I recognized Sarah Chun sitting 3 rows back. Cassandra and Preston sat at the defense table with their attorneys, plus 2 more lawyers. They'd brought in reinforcements. Judge Ramirez entered. Before we begin, the judge said, I want to make something clear. This is a court of law. not a circus. Anyone who disrupts proceedings will be removed. Ms. Chun, opening statement. Lydia stood. Your Honor, this case is about theft. Not the kind that happens in dark alleys with masks and guns, but the kind that happens in boardrooms with LLCs and forged documents. Dakota Flint inherited 47 acres from his grandfather, a man who paid cash for that land in 1971 and meticulously maintained it for 48 years. When Mr. Flint couldn't visit for 3 years, the defendants saw an opportunity. She held up Preston's email blown up to poster size. This email written by Preston Whitmore proves they knew Dakota Flint was the legal owner. They knew their adverse possession claim would fail. They built anyway because they calculated correctly that most people can't afford to fight. But they made one mistake. They picked the wrong victim. Because Dakota Flint kept every receipt, every tax payment, every survey map, and he refused to quit. She turned to face Cassandra and Preston. The defendants committed fraud. They broke into Mr. Flint's home. They hired private investigators to harass his children. They filed false IRS complaints. Your Honor, we're not asking for mercy. We're asking for justice, and we have the receipts. The defense attorney argued that the title company had made an honest mistake, that Preston's email was taken out of context. But Judge Ramirez wasn't buying it. The trial lasted 7 hours. Lydia called witnesses. The title company representative who admitted taking a bribe. Rick Polson from Code Enforcement, who testified about the pattern of false complaints. Deputy Torres, who described the harassment campaign. She entered Grandpa's ledgers into evidence. Preston took the stand. Lydia destroyed him in 40 minutes. Every question was a trap. Every answer dug him deeper. Cassandra refused to testify. Fifth Amendment. At 4:47 p.m., Judge Ramirez announced she'd issue a ruling within 24 hours. We filed out into the hallway. The homeowners mobbed me. Sarah Chun grabbed my arm. What happens to us? If you win, do we lose our homes? I looked at Lydia. She nodded. You keep your homes, I said loud enough for everyone to hear. Every single one of you. The Whitmores committed fraud, not you. You'll own your houses free and clear. The crowd went silent. Then someone started clapping. Within seconds, 40 people were applauding. Cassandra walked past, flanked by her attorneys. She looked at me once, her eyes full of pure hatred, then disappeared into the elevator. The next morning, Judge Ramirez issued her ruling. We won everything. The defendants engaged in a calculated systematic scheme to defraud Dakota Flint of his lawful property through false adverse possession claims, bribery of public officials, and intentional misrepresentation. Such conduct is reprehensible and will not be tolerated by this court. The order gave me full title to all 47 acres, including the 96 houses. It awarded me $4.2 million in damages for trespass, emotional distress, and loss of use. It required the Whitmores to pay Lydia's legal fees, $73,000, and it referred the case to the U.S. Attorney's Office for criminal prosecution. Cassandra and Preston were done. Ridgeline Capital dissolved within a week. Their personal assets went to auction to pay creditors. Preston was indicted on 6 federal fraud charges. Cassandra took a plea deal, 3 years probation, $500,000 restitution, and a lifetime ban from Colorado real estate development. But the ruling created a new problem. What to do with 96 families who'd bought homes on my land? I could have forced them out, sold the houses myself, pocketed another $16 million. That's what the law allowed. Instead, I called a town hall meeting at Ridgeline Heights on March 15th. All 96 families showed up. Sarah Chun stood in front, holding her daughter's hand. An elderly couple sat near the back, looking terrified. I stood at the front with Lydia beside me. I know you're scared. You bought homes in good faith. You did nothing wrong, and I'm not here to punish you for someone else's crime. Here's what I'm proposing. I'm transferring ownership of all 96 homes to the Ridgeline Heights Community Trust, a nonprofit we're establishing today. Each family will own their home through the trust at the price you originally paid. No mortgages, no interest, just what you've already invested. The trust will use those funds to maintain roads, cover property taxes, and establish a scholarship fund for kids in this community. My grandfather believed land was about legacy, not profit. This is his legacy. The applause started slowly, then built like a thunderstorm. People were hugging, crying, shouting thank yous. An elderly man walked up and shook my hand. You're a good man, he said. Your grandfather raised you right. The The scholarship fund launched in September. The William Flint Memorial Scholarship, $10,000 annually for a Colorado student studying engineering, forestry, or environmental science. I kept 5 acres for myself at the north end of the property, the part with the old growth pines Grandpa had refused to log. Built a small cabin there, 2 bedrooms, nothing fancy. Wake up every morning to the smell of pine and coffee. Watch deer graze outside my window. Tyler visits on weekends. Emma brings her boyfriend. Patricia Hughes did a follow-up story in December. From property theft to community triumph, how one man turned injustice into justice. It won her 3rd Emmy. Last week, Sarah Chin's daughter drew me a picture. A crayon house with a stick figure labeled Mr. Dakota holding a giant deed. It's on my fridge now. I think about Grandpa's note sometimes. Don't let the bastards take what's yours. He was right. But what's mine isn't just land or money. It's knowing that 96 families sleep safely because I didn't quit. It's a scholarship that'll help some kid who reminds me of myself, broke, stubborn, just trying to build something. It's justice. The real kind. The kind that heals. So here's my question for you. Have you ever dealt with an HOA nightmare, a property dispute, someone who thought they could steamroll you because they had money and you didn't? Drop your story in the comments. And if this story mattered to you, if it reminded you that good people can still win, hit that subscribe button because I've got more stories like this. Stories about the little guy outsmarting the machine. Stories with receipts. Next week, City Council denied my business permit, so I found the bylaw that made me untouchable. See you then. And remember, keep your receipts. All of them.